Hey, y'all, welcome to Everybody Gets 15 Minutes here at Waterloo Records in Austin, Texas. A quick conversation with some of our favorite acts we have the privilege of hosting live in store right here on our stage. I'm Gus Ochoa, and this is Jeff Olsen of Big Bill.
Hello.
Welcome to Waterloo Records.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm great.
Good. First, like right off the bat, we were talking a little bit before. How's Alan doing?
Alan's doing well. He's recovering.
For those who don't know, can you explain a little bit? I mean, by the time this comes out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he'll be much better.
Our bass player recently purchased a motorcycle.
All right.
Naturally.
Yeah, that's always
a couple days ago before our album came out. He took a little spill off the motorcycle. Fortunately, it was a one person, thing. He was in his neighborhood, but he did break some ribs in his clavicle. So he
oh my gosh,
was in the hospital for a couple days, and they've released him. He is recovering, but we've got our friend and a true hero, Sam Pankey, is going to fill in for the shows this week. So
I love that. I saw that on Instagram. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, everybody at Waterloo wishes Alan a quick and speedy recovery.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Motorcycles are, I mean, that could be a whole other thing.
No
I've
comment.
had, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I hear you. No comment. So best punk band, you guys got that this last year. How does that feel like to be recognized in the community in that way?
It feels good. I think it's funny. It feels like there was a running joke among us that we had been sort of nominated many times and never won. And we were kind of happy to be the eternally snubbed underdog.
Sure.
But then when we actually won it, we were like, okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was going back and it was like dice pits.
Yeah. Funny enough.
And they're great, obviously.
It was kind of after we put out the last album, which is probably like the least punk album that we've ever put out.
Yeah.
So that was funny because it felt like we tried to take a move sort of away from that, from getting pigeonholed into that and genre. And then it just so happened that the next year was when we got
you just dove right back in.
Best punk.
Well, congratulations. That's fantastic. I mean, that's fantastic.
I haven't been in the band as long as everyone else has. So they've been working on this for a long time.
Wait, you play drums, to be clear.
Yeah.
And you kill it on this record, and I'm going to get to that.
Thank you.
But how long have you been with the band?
I joined the band technically in January of 2020. And the reason was that Alan, who's now the bass player, he was the original drummer of the band. His job basically moved him to Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And so we knew each other. We were friends. And he basically hit me up and said, hey, I have to move because of my job. I'd like you to be the new drummer for Big Bill if you're okay with that. And I was like, yeah, it sounds fun. He moved briefly to Minnesota. He was in an apartment. His wife was still in Austin. And then I played a couple shows with the band as it was, just with me on drums. And then COVID happens, lockdown, all this stuff.
Right.
Naturally, like a couple months into that, the job that had moved Alan to Minnesota basically was like, we don't actually need you in person. So you could just move back to Austin if you want to.
I feel like that story is not uncommon though.
So he came back, and then it just so happened at the same time, this is all, a lot of musical chairs, but Eric, the singer, his brother Cody, who was the guitar player, he moved because he was just kind of like, I don't want to be in the city. You got to job, blah, blah, blah. And then he was also having some hand problems. Mm-hmm. And so basically we just did a whole thing. Like Alex, who was playing bass, who's actually a guitar player, we're like, why don't you switch to guitar? Alan's like, hey, I can play bass. And we're like, okay, Alan, come back in. We'll play bass. So it was funny at the time.
Again, we're talking about we're here talking with Big Bill about Sick Myth, and the proof's in the pudding. The record's amazing.
Thank you.
So whatever musical chairs you guys decided to shift around, it kind of worked. I mean, I feel like that works sometimes though, when you take people out of, I do this, and you give them another, hey, express yourself on this instrument.
Definitely.
And let's see what happens.
Like Alan's bass parts and stuff that he wrote for this album, I think are really amazing. I feel him when I listen to the album. I can feel his personality come through. Yeah,
and some of those bass lines I'm going to get to later too on some of the specific tracks. Money Store comes to mind, which is like killer, just a killer tune.
Yeah.
So for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with Big Bill, like you guys have been described as, I've got some things written down here, a darkly comedic brand of philosophical art rock or egg punk or kinetic or raw energy, that kind of thing. How would you describe the band to someone who is coming to this?
Yeah, it's been hard to decide what we
I love genre bending though.
Self-describe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say art punk, art rock, somewhere in somewhere in the zone of those two poles, I would say was where we kind of land, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. If someone asked me what kind of band we were, I'd say, listen to us and decide what you think.
Well, I love that. No, I've seen on Allie pointed it out on Instagram. Have you seen the guys in the lab coats going around like asking people to listen? Man, I mean, that sense of humor it's so infectious, but it really comes through, and it's, I don't know, I like to hear what you think the band is, because I think that other people listening will say, oh yeah, I want to go check that out. That's really, really cool. Guys in lab coats coming up and asking me like, what do you think of this record? Will you listen to it?
Yeah.
How did that come about, by the way? Like, how did you guys conceive of like, hey, maybe we should just go do that?
I think Eric has been living in Philly for just under a year. And, he was basically just like looking for anything to go do to like help create some content for the band. And he just like had this idea. Well, we kind of had this idea of like doing, man on the street type interviews with people and like trying to get them to say bizarre stuff about us that we could sort of clip, but then that's
genius.
He'd sort of decided, I think, to approach it in a slightly more earnest way, which is like to actually get people to listen to the single that was about to come out and like give their honest opinion. And fortunately, the feedback was mostly positive. So
I mean, yeah, it's an incredible record, and I want to talk about it. Sick Myth. I've got a copy right there on the table. It's on Toto, right? Or is it? Yeah.
Toto. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going through a thing going, is it to do? Is it Toto? Like, which is it? I'm on my Spanish journey my entire life. So I'm like, I hope it's Toto. I hope it's Toto. The label site describes it as Sick Myth explores the spiritual ugliness of America, depicting the sad, desolate, and commodified landscape of the United States. The album addresses themes of death, corporate psychopathy, and the mythology of the country. That is more than a mouthful for me to say. I was like, I'm going to say this quote. All right, cool. I don't know how to better sum it up. I mean, how would you break that down a little bit more, maybe?
Yeah, definitely the title track, Sick Myth, is kind of like, I think the key to, the decoder key to all the other tracks. And yeah, a lot of it was, obviously we wrote the record pretty much in its entirety in like November of last year. So right around the election and all this, lots of other horrible shit going on all around the world. And we were writing very quickly, and so a lot of the lyrics were just kind of like top of the head stuff that we just started to flesh out, and we kind of realized that we weren't like necessarily writing a concept record, but it kind of did become that of like everything is just like part of the constellation of like what it's like to live in an America that it feels like is collapsing or has collapsed, and like what are the different ways that you can respond to that, and kind of every song on the record, some of the narrators are a little more omniscient, sort of like more expressing what our opinion is. And then some of the narrators of the songs are kind of like characters that are navigating this world in ways that we may or may not agree with,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely just sort of like trying to investigate, what is the Sick Myth, the titular Sick Myth is like the American dream, the idea that this is a country that's set up for people to succeed, that's set up for that anyone can succeed, anyone can do XYZ, and they can expect to be rewarded by the system as we have in place, So that's kind of what we're investigating, I think.
Right.
Throughout the album.
Yeah, the American myth.
Yeah.
I got you. Absolutely. And you're right. Like, I guess I never thought of it as a concept record in that way, but I was going to note that it does flow really well.
Yeah.
Like from one track into another. And like Sick Myth this morning, man, I'm on my way to work and I'm driving down 45th and it's like construction and traffic's crazy. And I'm just like, this is like the soundtrack to my existence right now. And there is a lot of that, like, I don't know, you mentioned Men on the Street earlier with the lab coats, but I think that there's some of that actually comes through on some of these tunes as well.
Yeah.
Cameras really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was like, oh yeah, this is a reminder of the contract we decided to sign and say, yeah, sure, take all my information. It's all good.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Is that where you guys were coming from with that one?
Yeah. Part of it is definitely just like surveillance, sort of total surveillance and total lack of data privacy that you have, but also like, there's a lot of imagery in that song. We're trying to evoke the border and like, border hysteria. And that was all kind of before this year's extreme and brutal like ICE ramp up.
Right.
It just sort of happened to be that we had written this song about kind of that subject, And in that song, kind of, there's also, it's probably more esoteric, but there's some language that's like, we literally took from Genesis, from the Bible.
Really?
Like describing the Garden of Eden.
Right.
I think he says, a garden guarded by a spinning sword. So in Genesis, he's describing that in the Garden of Eden, there are these angels with these flaming swords that are like guarding the garden. And then we were thinking about the Border Patrol put like all these like barbed wire and like floating buoys with like razors and stuff on them in the middle of the Rio Grande, and just sort of imagining it's basically like the the dark, horrible mirror of this image of like the angel guarding the Garden of Eden,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all of those images, all of those feelings are definitely captured in this record. And it's, again, you guys do it in a way that flows really well. There's a humor element to it though too.
Yeah, I think we tried. There's a lot of dark themes and heavy themes in the album, and I think we, as sort of has always been the vibe, is like taking something really serious and like presenting it in a way that it's not straight up like laugh out loud funny, but just like trying to add some sort of wryness to it.
But that's often the best way, I feel like.
Yeah.
To address topics that are super heavy.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I think of John Cleese speaking at Graham Chapman's funeral, and it's just like hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's like one of your best friends just passed away.
Yeah.
So I really like that vehicle, like that way of delivering a message.
Mm-hmm.
Young Men of the World.
That one's
such a great tune. Again, it flows right into Money Store, which is like really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all got Billy Buck to play sax on this one.
Yeah, that was fun.
So Billy did the mural here.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah, which is killer.
Yeah, she's an old. I grew up with her. Or went to high school, middle school, and high school with her.
I was about to say, how did you wrangle Billy to do that?
We had this idea. The last album that we did had a lot of overdubs and a lot of extra stuff, which was cool.
Yeah.
But we wanted to try for this, like focusing all the songs around like the live performance of the band. Mm-hmm. And then just due to the fact that we were recording to tape and we had a limit on the amount of tracks that we could use. And then also sort of as a conscious decision being like, okay, every song is going to have like one interloping element, be that like a percussion, some kind of sound design or a sample, synthesizer, a double guitar, but trying to keep it very strictly kind of sparse,
right?
Instrumentation wise. I think on that song, we were kind of just like looking for something to fill this space and had this idea of like this sort of weird sax solo that was just kind of like sounds
it's so
like
cool,
a panic
though.
attack or something.
It's so cool though. You say panic attack, but I don't know, maybe this speaks more about me, but I thought it was like comforting, like in a weird way, like the dissonance, like how it goes in and out.
Yeah,
man. And the drone kind of, it's really, really, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was hearing it going, maybe that's like maybe it's a testament to where things are at right now. I'm just like, this is the most comforting thing I've ever heard.
That's amazing. But we hit her up and she also played on When I Die, some saxophone. And she just came in and basically was just like, here's the song, just like do something. Like she went and did it like 3 or 4 times. And then we were just like, that's awesome.
But
like,
I love that.
It hit this perfect thing where it's like she hadn't learned the song well enough yet to like write what would be like a traditional solo, but she's just like working through the energy of the section in a way that just like hit this crazy fever pitch at the end, and it was like, yes, that's exactly what we needed to like bridge the gap to the last chorus and like land up on the mountaintop or whatever.
But that's a great way to go. Yeah, because it's like Billy's wheelhouse and their capabilities. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, do something. Yeah, exactly. That's really cool.
Yeah, we didn't offer too much direction, which
no,
it worked out for the best.
Yeah, it sounds like it did. I mean, like, again, you're warm, like Billy, you're warming me with your sex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, making me feel very comfortable.
That's awesome.
It is. It's beautiful. I dig it so much. So we were talking a little bit about, like, how other people describe the band, and you were talking about live shows. They've said, energetic, raucous. To me, honestly, like, it throws me back to old emos. And I love that. I really do. I've had Stella Maxwell in here talking about Stella and the Very Messed, and she was in Cruiserweight all those years ago. Mm-hmm. It just gives me that good feeling of like, I don't know. It also, I lived in San Francisco for a little bit, and it makes me think of that, the biker bar zeitgeist or something. Like, you're just kind of hanging out listening to Big Bill on the overheads. It's really, really, really cool. I mean, from the lyrics to slice of life, kind of every day, and commentary on what's going, happening in the world, but also just the vibe. I've seen, I don't know, Devo thrown around a lot when people talk about your stuff. Yeah. And I can hear that. I totally can. But who are some of your, I guess, like, musical touchstones? Like, is it Devo's certainly in there somewhere, I'm sure. But like, where do you guys come from as far as like that goes? Yeah.
It's an interesting question, because I think if you asked each member of the band that question, you would get a completely different answer.
That's so cool, though. I love that.
But yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking about stuff that I was listening to and thinking about when we were making this record. Mm-hmm. I was listening, actually, at the time when we first started writing this record, I was obsessed with the Daniel Romano record that had just come out.
Man.
Where's Paradise?
My friend and our marketing manager, Cory Reinisch, will be like, yes.
Yes. I love Daniel Romano. Yeah. And that album, I was listening to that album, I was like, the speed and ferocity of everything, and the way that everything, that's very much how I wanted the album to sound. And I mixed the album, so I had a lot of control over that, but I was like, I want the listening experience to be like intense.
Right.
Yeah. Like, as you're listening to the album and you're talking about the songs kind of flowing into each other.
They do.
It's like very little dead air, very little fat on the songs. Like, things are just like, you're just getting like slammed by everything. I wanted it to kind of be an onslaught. And I was thinking about that Daniel Romano album a lot. Yeah. Also, Jay Reatard, the Blood Visions record, is like one of my all-time favorites for that style of just like, it's very hook-oriented, good pop songwriting, but it's presented in this like tight, extreme package. Yeah. That, some other stuff. I wrote some stuff down.
Hey, man, feel free to read it. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Zero Boys.
Okay.
If you know that band. I first learned about them because they did a reunion show at Fun Fest.
Oh, man, you're taking me back, dude.
And I just remember seeing them, these old guys playing like super fast, technical, like punk. I was just like, oh, my God. Yeah. The drummer especially. I was like,
but that's an element.
Is he playing that fast?
That's an element of what y'all do on this record, though, too.
Yeah.
There's some snare stuff, and I'm just like, dude.
Yeah, some of these songs, songs on this album are really hard to play. You'll find out soon.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see you play it on stage.
But yeah.
Speaking of the tunes, do you have a favorite like on this record? I know I like to ask people to come through, and I know it's difficult to.
It's hard. It kind of has changed throughout the process. Definitely Still Cold is one of my favorites. That's also, part of that is because I helped write like the chord progression for that one, and it was kind of one that was sort of came from we kind of wrote this record in a very piecemeal way where we were just sending back and forth different ideas, and we would get together at
That's Alan's. Because everybody's in different places.
Yeah, and we just knew that we had to do this. Mm-hmm. Like we just didn't have time to like only get together once a week at the practice space, and that's when we were working on it.
Yeah.
Like we had to whenever two members of the band could get together,
Yeah.
then we were just trying to get together and work on something. And so the way that the record came about was very much like these different ideas that were slowly getting percolated and gathering on Alan's computer and like on Ableton sessions where he could kind of like be like, oh, this bass part's cool, but what if it went under this guitar part? You know, like just sort of moving all this stuff around. I actually did like I wrote like a completely different like lyrics to it and recorded it. That sounded like the OCs or something. And then Eric wrote what's actually on there, which is really, really cool.
That can be that can be on the box set.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, Sick Myth, the title track also I'm really happy with because it's very strange. Yeah. Like, it doesn't really sound like traditionally one of our songs, and it also like doesn't sound like a lot of stuff. Like, it sounds very experimental to me in like in a deliberate way.
I think,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's a great way to be, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. It goes back to that whole thing of not being able to be pinned down. When the result comes out and it doesn't sound like anything else, that's kind of like a good thing.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, you know, we had all these kind of things that we were like, this term egg punk has been used. And, and there is this sort of like, part of it is that we were just listening to and playing with some bands. Yeah. Like Snooper from Nashville is like an obvious one, who sort of have been described as this egg punk thing. And we were kind of like, oh yeah, we kind of have, some of our stuff kind of sounds like that.
Yeah.
But also like our band as a band doesn't really sound like that. Like, there are songs that are in that realm.
Yeah.
So it was like, do we want to like play into that and make a record that's like a pastiche of a style that already exists? Or do we want to just like try to make the absolute best thing that we can make? And however it turns out, if it sounds like someone or if it doesn't sound like something, then that's fine because it's our statement, you know? That was kind of my attitude going into
I mean, I think that's a great attitude. And I think that, again, the proof is there. I think what came out is an awesome piece of music, and it's such a great listen, and everybody out there should go and pick up the record.
Thank you.
Look, I'm wearing a denim jacket, not a lab coat, but I'm going to come around with this record in my hand and say, hey, have you heard this?
The numbers are in. You need to go buy this album.
There you go. Well, we're looking forward to you playing a little bit later too. All you folks out there, by the time you hear this, will miss it, but you definitely should get a chance to. If you get a chance to go see Big Bill, go check him out. It'll be, I promise you won't be disappointed. The album is called Sick Myth from Big Bill on Toto Records. It's out everywhere you stream your music as of November 21st. And you can, of course, pick it up here on vinyl at Waterloo Records. You can keep up with them on Instagram at Big I can't even say it.
Big Bill
At
Band.
Big Bill Band. It's a lot of B's. Or to keep up with all things Big Bill, please visit bigbillband.com. Jeff Olsen of Big Bill, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Man, this has been so enjoyable.
Yeah.
You're welcome back anytime. Thank y'all out there for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Waterloo Records, at Waterloo.sound for our Dolby Atmos studio, at Waterloo_wheels to follow the ongoing adventures of our Waterloo van, and at Unofficial Dogs of Waterloo to see all the canine pals who come in and shop with us. I'd like to thank Cory Reinisch, our marketing manager, Allie Lingren, our in-house engineer, for always dialing it in, Audio-Technica for providing the mics and headphones, and of course the hardest working staff on the planet, without which none of this is possible. I'm Gus Ochoa. See y'all next time. Support the artists you love, support your local record store, and if you're ever in Austin, stop by and say hey, we'd love to see you. Adios, y'all.